Everybody, Josh Neighbors here, Locked On Big 12 podcast. Today it is the 19th of April 2023. On today's show, a Q&A with you all, the listener, because we have a very special kind of event to celebrate here. We have reached 4,000 subscribers on YouTube, which is a big milestone. We got our first 1,000 subs. We hit 1,000 subs back in, let's see, what was it? I think July of 2022, we hit 8,000 subs or 8,000. We hit 1,000 subs back in July 2022. And now in April here of, 2023, we are now at 4,000 subscribers on YouTube. So thank you all so much. Please subscribe if you have not already. Here it's Locked On Big 12. Appreciate you all when you guys do that. Find us wherever you get your podcasts, YouTube. Follow us on Twitter at LOBig12. You guys can find me at Josh Neighbors _. So we're going to go over a few things conference realignment wise, and then we're going to hit your all's questions. So put them in the comments. Also, I took some from Twitter as well, but we're answering all things conference realignment, Pac-12 TV deal, Big 12 future. Where does the Big 12 go next? Future college sports, all of those things. So please leave your questions in the comment section, in the chats as well, and we will get to them as we go. Also appreciate the folks who have sent a couple questions on Twitter for us as well today. Remind you all, today's show is brought to you all by the FanDuel Sportsbook, #1 sportsbook in America. Make every moment more with the FanDuel Sportsbook. All right, so let's get to it, folks. So what's happening right now with conference realignment? Like, where are we right now? Because things have been relatively quiet for the last few days, right? I know Colorado had their meeting on Monday, but I've got nothing to say that came out of that meeting. I've got nothing that was told to me about it. I'm not connected with Colorado. And I know some folks are saying stuff, but nobody I trust has said anything about it. And so I think the situation with Colorado is this. I think Colorado right now has a plan. If their plan is to stay in the Pac-12, they get a deal that they and the others like. If they do not like it, they're going to leave, just like the other schools that we have been talking about. I don't think Colorado is any different. I think Colorado, though, is a more natural fit in the Big 12 because they have been there before. They have some more natural rivalries in the Big 12 conference. So all those things make them a better candidate, make them a natural candidate. I think their silence on some things has made them a more talked about entity in some ways, but no movement at this point in time on that front, it feels like. Once again, guys, send your comments, send your questions in the comment section. All right, where I stand on all of this. So I think it's pretty cut and dry at this point. The Pac-12, they want to stay together. The presidents have given George Kliavkoff, in my opinion, more than ample time, more than enough time to find a deal that they say works for them, a deal that works for basically all the parties. I think the biggest challenge is the needs and wants of Oregon and Washington are different than Arizona, Arizona State, Colorado, and Utah, different than Stanford and Cal. I think it's a very difficult balance. Length of the deal, challenge. Linear versus streaming, challenge. Streaming versus linear versus money, big challenge. All of it together is very challenging to do. And there have been so many put-offs. There have been so many date extensions. There's been a lot of negative press that if you are a Pac-12 president, I really think that you could sympathize with somebody right now if one of the presidents said, you know what, we've had enough of the uncertainty. We're at a point now where we've just had so much kind of back and forth that we're saying, no, we're going to pack up. We're going to go to the Big 12 conference. Now, it's a brave move. It's a difficult move. And that's why I think most presidents are gearing towards the side of, you know what, we're going to give this thing time. We're going to give George every opportunity. But I think it hits a certain point where you kind of given George enough opportunities. And let's be honest, you're probably not going to get a better deal than the one the Big 12 currently has. If they do, I'd be surprised. And also, if you leave for the Big 12, you're going to weaken the Pac-12. And then when the next television contract comes around, you're kind of in a better position than the Pac-12 is because it'll be a zombie version of the Pac-12, in my opinion. So that's where we are. And once again, guys, I know it's a Locked On Big 12 show. I have a Big 12 flag behind me, but I've been pretty consistent about where I feel this thing is trending, where it's going. At first, I said I thought they'd get a deal done. Then next, I said, well, it's kind of going the other direction. I mean, the Big 12's got some momentum here. And now I'm kind of back 50-50, maybe even leaning towards Pac-12 getting a deal done. But, the pressure is on. It's been so back and forth. And look, this, it feels likely they'll get some kind of deal done, but it's not an easy thing to do. And the people involved, it's not easy to guess who they're going to be. So there's a lot of uncertainty, and I think that's got to be accounted for. That's just my down the middle read of this. And look, once again, I know there's a Big 12 flag behind me, but I am somebody, if you all have watched this show before, you all know I did not go to a Big 12 school. I covered the conference for not a long time, but starting in 2020, that's when I began covering the league specifically with SiriusXM and started this podcast later on that year. We've done a ton of shows, folks, and you all know that, yeah, little pro Big 12, obviously, want to see them succeed. But when it comes to this, you have to take all of the news for what it actually is. You have to read into the silence right now, and that they're working hard. The silence does not mean they're working behind the scenes for that exit. No, that does not mean that. Anybody who's telling you that, I really don't know. Like they've got a lot better sources than everybody else. All right. That's all you know. And some of you all say, Josh, no, you're wrong. Sure. Whatever. I don't really care, but I've trusted the reporting so far that I have seen. And not once has anybody been saying, well, Josh, you're lying to us, or Josh, you shouldn't be following those reporters. No, they've been pretty consistent. And that's why I think that, look, there is a standing offer from the league. The Pac-12 schools want to stay together, and they're trying to get a deal. It's now crunch time. And so we have to see where the chips fall. On the next thing I want to hit on here is the ESPN layoffs. All right. So ESPN is laying people off. Jim Williams brought this up the other day about live sports and the desire for live sports. It still remains high, but are we going to hit kind of a critical mass? Right. And he mentioned all of these leagues are eventually going to come up again. And is everybody going to keep paying more and more money for all of them? You know, I think we're going to keep seeing people pay for more. I think they're going to keep paying more money for this, but I think it will hit a certain critical point. Now, I think they will keep doing it at the cost of employees, because ESPN's been doing this for a long time. Remember, they cut like their entire hockey staff, right? They rehired folks because they got the rights to it recently. But, you know, when it comes to the Big 12, I would not be afraid of the Big 12 down the line getting sent down price-wise. Like $31 million a year per team is not some astronomical cost for ESPN. They're not even paying that. They're paying what, 23, 24, whatever it is, per school. Like that's not some astronomical cost. So in my opinion, it's not like the Big 12 is in any position. They're not one of those top tier leagues where it's like, are they going to take less? Now, you know, is their share going to go up? We'll have to see in time for the next TV deal, but I'm not like overly concerned because we know the next CFP contract is going to be massive. There's no doubts in my mind of the next CFP contract being a big one. So I think we have to take that into account as well. But ESPN layoffs, you're seeing them lay folks off, but also you're also seeing Marcus Spears get a big extension according to Andrew Marchand. So where are these television companies? Is there a certain amount of layoffs they can do? Or is it going to be layoffs? And then eventually it's like, well, we've laid people off. We still can't afford all the sports that we want. So if you want to be on our networks, you're going to have to take a pay cut. I don't know. Part of that's going to be how well do the streaming platforms do as well. But that's something to watch. We talk about live sports and cost. And also the Pac-12 right now, could they be affected by that? I don't think they are, but they could be. I mean, if we're talking about ESPN laying off people, we're talking about them potentially taking on another cost in the form of the Pac-12. That needs to be considered. If you folks want to leave questions, leave them in the comment section. I will get to them as we go. Let's answer some now. But first, quick word from our sponsor. Today's show is brought to you all by Built Bar. Go to Built.com today. It's Built.com. And you guys don't miss all their details. I got something fun coming up here. Locked on 15, though, at Built.com. Get you guys 15% off your first order of Built Bars. Delicious. They're good for you. They taste good. They've got tons of protein, low in sugar, tastes like candy bar. That's what you guys want to do. Built.com today. All right, folks, time for the questions, and keep sending them in the chat. I'll put up the ones that we got on Twitter. So the first question that I saw, let's see, let's get there. Okay. This one comes from @StrikeNowhere. Is the Big 12 still considering Gonzaga? I think with where we are right now, Brett Yormark knows that, he's kind of done everything he can when it comes to the Pac-12 schools, right? You've made probably the best offer. I mean, I can't imagine a Pac-12 school would come to him and they'd be like, well, we're not positive what the offer will be to you yet. No, I think there's a pretty good understanding of what Pac-12 schools would be getting if they came to the Big 12 conference. And so I think if you're Brett Yormark, you're playing the waiting game right now. But also the Gonzaga idea, it was reported that the first presentation he had made the other to the Pac-12 or the Big 12 leadership, rather, when it came to this topic, was not with dollar figures. It was more about the idea of adding Gonzaga. What are the advantages to this? Well, number one, it strengthens your position as the best basketball conference in the country. There's no doubt about that. The Big 12 is the best basketball conference. It remains the best basketball conference. There was no one conference that put together a performance this year in the tournament that would make you say they were better. That did not happen, right? So this would strengthen what is already the best conference in America. It would also step into the Pac-12 footprint. You would be going into the area of the country the Pac-12 lives. Gonzaga is in Spokane, Washington. Washington has Washington and Washington State. So obviously, going to the Pac-12 country kind of makes a statement, announces your intentions about what you plan to do in that region of the country. We know Brett Yormark is focused on a fourth time zone, but there is no movement on that. And I think, honestly, you won't see any movement until the Pac-12 deal is done. You might say, Josh, well, if Pac-12 gets a deal done, couldn't they then become more attractive? Yeah, they could. That could happen. But I think this move could be more symbolic than anything. And also, I'm wondering about the financial part of this, when it comes down to it, as a basketball-only member. And I'm wondering if you're going to get a majority, whatever majority you need of the Big 12 presidents to sign off on a move like that. I don't know if they have that support. The financials have to make sense. But as an optic move, if it doesn't cost you really anything, even if you're not putting not making you a ton of extra money in the short term, it's worth considering. And also, this goes along with something that we've been talking about. Brett Yormark sees basketball as a big-time property for a few reasons. Number one, he worked in basketball. Number two, the game times, the reason why they're cutting down on baseball times is the newer generation, they want them to stay engaged. They want them to stay engaged and involved in baseball. And basketball, timing-wise, it's got a pretty good run time. Some of these college basketball games, they do run too long with some of the officiating and whatnot. But I think there is a situation in which the Big 12 could put together this an unbelievable package of basketball games with schools. If they added, imagine they had Arizona, but even if they didn't add, they'd have Gonzaga, they'd have Houston, they'd have Kansas, they'd have Baylor, K-State. Obviously, looks like they might just be, they might just up and be a power all of a sudden now too. Not to mention the various other, basketball teams, have done very well, succeeded very much in the Big 12 conference. So they've got this great basketball package. Even if they had Arizona and they had a Gonzaga, they have this elite package that they could sell that would just basically, the Big Monday package, I kind of called it, they could sell that would be very valuable. And I think younger kids do gravitate towards basketball. And so I think they've got a chance there. They maintain their status as the best league in the country, which I think they very much can. I think there's good because, and that's the big thing is the quality of the coaches is what really a lot of times defines how good the league is. And the quality of the coach in this league is still just unbelievably high. So that's why I think that offer's still there, but I think they're waiting on anything else for some movement, on the Pac-12 thing. Couple questions here from @Jackson00. Now, the rest of the numbers, not going to read them. Is the Big 12 going back to divisions? When will they stay at 9? Will they stay at 9 games or go on an 8-game schedule? I think ever since we had the one true champion, they've scrapped the conferences and divisions, and they are not going to go back to it. I would not go back to it. I want the two best teams playing every single year. I think having you play as many teams as possible in your league will yield the two best teams. Sure, some year will work out where somebody catches a break because they dodge certain teams. Yeah, it's going to happen. But I still like the format where you play as many teams as possible. I do not want to go back to divisions. And furthermore, I think it's just 9 games. I think they're going to stay at 9 games. I think 9 games is the way to go. Maximize your conference opponents. You want one Power 5, one maybe, group of 5. I think the best way to do this is 9 conference, 1 P5, 1 G5. And if I had it my way, you'd have an FCS from the state that you are in, right? So, Texas, for example, you play, Texas Southern, Tarleton State, whoever you want to pick. It's got football teams. I'm not even sure Texas Southern has a football team. But schools, you play the schools, give them an opportunity to play you. Even if it's Texas State for Baylor, I know they're a lower G5, but even playing schools like that, I would like. All right. Once again, taking your questions now in the chat. Any noise about what the odds are of UConn going to the Big 12 in this realignment round? So I think this round it's probably a no, and here's why. Number one, the football program, while they had a nice year, is nowhere near strong enough, and it does not add any value at all. That's at least my opinion. I don't think UConn football does. UConn basketball would definitely add more to what I considered to be, that A package they could put on, especially with the way Coach Early has the thing running right now. My God, right? So I think that definitely adds to it. But football is just not there. And one season of them making a bowl game does not put enough for me to add that in there. And also, they've already got the East Coast time zone covered with West Virginia, and they've also got it covered now with UCF. So I'm not looking east first. Now, if the numbers were to say, like, this makes a ton of sense for you all to do it, sure. But I'm not going to let the fact, like, I'd rather have San Diego State than UConn. And you might say, well, Josh, UConn is going to be a good basketball program for a while. And they might win championships. Sure. But the Big 12 is in that time zone. And also, San Diego State's got a quality basketball program, so they wouldn't be a fall off. And they've got a strong football program. And they're in that fourth time zone. So we're talking about schools worth adding. I'm turning my attention west before I'm turning my attention east. As much as I kind of like the idea, and that would tap, and I would say this, it would tap into more. I know how UConn works. There are a lot of folks in those northeastern cities who are UConn fans, whether it be Boston, whether it be New York. There are a lot of folks in that part of the country who are UConn fans, but I'm not sure it's enough of a fan base to make it worthwhile right now. If the out west thing doesn't work, sure, go ahead and do it. Or if it's part of a larger scheme down the line, 20, if we're going to super conferences, sure, go ahead and do it. I mean, you can add a UConn, it's no big deal. Strengthens your basketball and whatnot. That's what we're doing. But right now, I just don't think it makes a ton of sense. I'm not hearing any noise about it. I know folks kicked it around, but I'm not too keen on that right now for those reasons. Matt needs to say, I hear Pac teams come to the Big 12. It needs to be soon, otherwise may not be able to come. I have not heard that, and I don't think it matters. I think that offer is going to stand. I don't think that offer is going to go anywhere anytime soon. I don't know why they would take it away. They want to go out west. And I'm not sure what would preclude them from joining in a month from now, as opposed to right now. That's still going to be there. And we talked to Jim Williams. He believes May is kind of a good deadline on this. Let's see. There have been some who think that Oregon State might be a player with SDS going to the Pac. New stadium, beat Oregon, up and coming. Yeah, so I actually thought about this too. The interesting about Washington State and Oregon State is that they're good at football. Like, both of them are actually good, like very solid football programs right now, and they have been as of late. Well, at least Washington State has been as of late. Oregon State has a really good coach in Jonathan Smith, and they did a great job last year. The problem is the brand. Like, they're just not television brands. They're just not, like, here's the thing. What's the game that you want to watch the most every single year that Oregon State rather? 40 and slip, because the answer is Oregon, right? The answer is Oregon State, Oregon. Well, that valuable commodity goes away if they join the Big 12, most likely, and Oregon doesn't, right? So that game goes away. What's the game you want to watch most each year with Washington State being involved in? Well, it's their game against Washington, the Apple Cup. That game goes away if they join the Big 12. So while I hear you all saying, like, why don't they target those schools? ESPN would pay the share. It's just not a needle mover TV wise, right? ESPN has said, sure, we'll give you the pro rata share. But Fox has not. And I think Fox is more apt to want Arizona State, Colorado, and Utah, as opposed to Oregon State and Washington State, because they're just in pretty remote places and they don't have any real television pull. That's kind of the problem with them. So I have not heard anything on that front. The Big East had a better tournament than the conference. That's true, but that doesn't make them the best conference. Like, the Big 12 has been the best conference for the last 3 seasons. And I think that they were the best conference, wire to wire this year as well. Just you winning the national championship does not mean your conference was better. Like, the Mountain West wasn't the second best conference in college basketball this year because they had a team make the championship game. It's not really how it works. It's kind of an overall picture. And also the Big East, the bottom of the Big East, the top of the Big East was really good. The bottom of the Big East was not very good. Let's see. If Oregon State has a killer year, 10-11-2 would make Big 12. Yeah, it just would depend on those ratings though, right? that's kind of the question. Is where are the ratings going to go on that? We need a fourth East team. UConn makes sense regardless of their football program, which is rising. UConn is basically NYC, which is what Yormark wants. Sure, but here's the problem. ESPN and Fox, or ESPN rather, has only committed to pay that pro rata for Power 5 teams. So UConn's not going to get the amount of money the Big 12 is looking for if they add them. It's going to be a deficit, I think. Simon also says, Josh, interstate games don't go away. Iowa State plays to their every other year, different conferences. They play every year, at least to my knowledge. Yes, but there's some that do. Oklahoma State is going away. Not saying they can't resuscitate the rivalry down the road, but that game's going away in the immediate future. Kansas and Missouri as a big rivalry game went away. A&M versus Texas went away. Now it's going back, but they're going to be in the same conference. So a lot of these interstate rivalry games have, in fact, gone away. UCF is not going to play USF in the war on I-4 anymore, right? That game is not going to happen, to my knowledge, moving forward. The Holy War, we have to say, I think it's on the books for a while between Utah and BYU. I'm not privy to that, but that one, been in the conference schedule. I don't think it's going to go away, but it could become a conference game here. So see what I'm saying? Some of these games actually do end up going away. These rivalry games, when you do that, they don't have to, but oftentimes they do go away because of this, because of somebody leaving. Is there a chance that Utah gets passed over for SDSU if Utah keeps holding? No. If you can add Utah, you add Utah. That program has been very strong. They had a partner school in that state, so you can start doing the Utah swing for basketball. You can, things like that become much easier to do. A Saturday, Monday situation. You can do a Utah swing. It gives you more late night inventory. And I know SDSU does the same thing too, but I would rather have Utah. I know San Diego State's basketball is better, but Utah has been to back-to-back Rose Bowls, right? And they did so by beating Oregon twice in 2021, and they beat USC twice. That is a program with serious potential because of the success that they've had. So I would rather take Utah. Also, once again, back to money, guys. ESPN has guaranteed the share, and I'm sure they'd be much more excited about bringing on them, Fox would, how much they'll pay, than they would be bringing on San Diego State. So it's an uphill climb money-wise if you add San Diego State as opposed to Utah is a guaranteed money. Not saying San Diego State you wouldn't get even, but you have to fight for it, right? Because there's no guarantee. So what's the incentive for ESPN to give you that even money? You basically have to prove it out that they need San Diego State in the programming, which I think there's a case there. But Utah is an automatic pro rata $23 million from the league, or whatever it is, $21 million. That's ESPN share. Matt Neeson says from Dennis Dodd today. Let's see. Oh yeah, I had not seen that. I had not seen that. Now I will say this. From what I've read from Dennis Dodd is that Dennis is very plugged in with the Big 12 folks. So with that, a lot of the sourcing comes from Big 12 people. And so you start to think on that front, well, what happens then? Are we at a spot where is he getting fed a lot of that information? And I'm not seeing that. So if you want to put that in the chat somewhere, I would love that. Just take a look at that. I usually have seen what Dennis Dodd writes, but I have not seen that. So if Dennis said that, then I definitely believe that. If you could put that in the chat, Matt, that'd be fantastic. Rumor out of Arizona State is that they are not real thrilled about the money they're expecting. They cannot sustain their football b-ball programs. Tells me that they already know for sure what they will receive. Well, Simon, I would counter on this by saying that the comments from President Crow a few weeks ago sounded like he was confident the numbers they were going to get, but they hadn't seen an offer yet. And the recent news tells me that they have not getting the offer nobody's getting the offer that they want. And so now the can has been kicked down the road. And I think they're still with the Pac-12. They still want to be in the conference. That's exactly where they want to be. All right, you guys are saying Dennis Dodd. Okay, his article will be out Friday. All right, so he's got an article coming out on Friday on this. I'm not sure. I see Oakley's putting it in there. Oakley, if somebody could send me the tweet where he mentions this, I'd love it just so I could put it out there for you all and we could all see it. We'll get to Dennis Dodd's comment in a second, but handling this. Yeah, I don't know. Look, once again, like I have not heard anything out of Arizona State, but reading the tea leaves tells me like they want to stay in the Pac-12. They definitely have a desire to do it. It feels like Colorado and Arizona are the two that are more keen to leave the conference. But thought Jim Williams made a good point the other day. They want to get that best and final offer. And so if it's not sufficient, what they can do is say, look, this offer you're seeing right here was not good enough. And we had to do what was best for us. And so these schools, I'm not saying they're looking for an excuse to leave, but if they are to leave, they want to make sure they have that ironclad excuse. I think it's pretty fair, but I think also at the same time too, and this is my big thesis on all of this. This is maybe my one if you guys were to say, Dodd did On Three podcast today referencing. Okay. Had not heard that one. I have not heard that one yet. My point on this is if you are a Big 12, if you're a Pac-12 president, sure, the justification is, well, we want to see the final deal. I get that. But also, haven't you seen enough already? Haven't you seen enough already with the changing deadlines and the CW and Ion and Apple and Amazon to justify leaving? Look, we just know that the Big 12, if you're Arizona, say, look, we just know the Big 12. We know how much money we're going to get. We know how long the contract is. We know we're going to be on TV. Our coaches can and our staff can market to that. Cover 3 podcast. Okay, so I've started. It's On 3. It's Cover 3. That's why. Yes, so I'm a normal Cover 3 listener. I have not listened to today's Cover 3 yet, so thank you all for putting that out there. Love this. And guys, I've told you all, it feels like news always drops on Fridays, so we'll have more on that, obviously, when I can read the piece, and we'll go to that now. Dennis Dodd said Yormark might be ready to move on the plan B, which might include SDSU and UNLV, said it on his pod. His article will be out Friday. So I know UNLV, they suck. Like, they're not good at football and basketball. They should be good, though. It's, my God, I don't know why. Vegas, not a college town, I guess that too. But the one advantage to that is Las Vegas, right? That would put you in Las Vegas, which is a very good sports market. It's a great place to host things. People love going there for events. I get that. San Diego State makes sense. And the reason why San Diego State feels, and look, I wouldn't want to move on to that. If you're San Diego State, what you should be waiting for is this. Well, if the Pac-12 gets a TV deal, we feel pretty confident about our chances of getting in that conference. If the Pac-12 does not get a TV deal, then what I would say at that point is, I don't feel very confident about us getting the conference until the Big 12 is available there, right? And obviously, you'd be fighting for as much money as possible to get in, but I think San Diego State at this point, they know what they're worth. There might be some negotiating, but they feel like it's time for them to go to a major conference. I think they're more concerned about making that step and the amount of money that they get. So with San Diego State, with UNLV, the one thing is they would take a reduced share. But the problem with that is that how much reduced share are they willing to take? And what do the TV companies end up offering? Once again, folks, ESPN is guaranteed for any Power 5 edition to pay the pro rata. But we said is this a Brett Yormark comment on okay, Brett Yormark smoking beer. So, and once again, as some of you folks, Cameron just points out that this could be a smoke and mirrors comment. And I mentioned this with Jim Williams yesterday. Could you basically say, like, look, you guys are not in as a good position as you were to the Pac-12 schools, and eventually say, well, that old offer we had is gone. We're going to offer you less now. No, I don't think you do that, though. I don't think you go back on. I think your priority is adding those schools, so you make sure that standing offer remains there as it is. But I have not heard. I'll obviously listen to see what Dennis has to say. Get your all's final questions in right now. We'll go for about 5 more minutes and then wrap this thing up. But yeah. So I think that's what we have to consider with this is we're talking about adding these G5 teams as a plan B. Okay, what's the revenue share? What's the money share? And they're willing to take less, sure, to get into a big conference. But is it enough of an advantage with what that team brings to maybe take somewhat of a financial hit? And will the school themselves have to take a financial hit? That's what you have to manage. Because when we talk about adding Arizona, right, ESPN, out of the $31.7 million that's going to Big 12 schools, they are going to pay, like, what is it, $21 million, $22 million a year. okay, Fox is not committed to paying the 8 or 9 or 10, whatever it is, to make up the rest. But um it's like $10 million isn't this gigantic number. So I don't see Fox being like, we're going with 3 million per school, right? I think it's more like, all right, Fox wants to pay 6 per school. If it's Arizona State, the Big 12 wants 10 per school. Maybe we meet in the middle at 8. And so, it's $30 million per new school that's a Power 5 conference. But the fact that you've got like nearly 2/3 of the contract guaranteed, or I think whatever is over 2/3 of the contract guaranteed from ESPN's end, if it's a P5 school, makes it so much easier, because that rest of the gap is just some, you just got to figure it out. $10 million is a lot of money, but it's not like Fox isn't going to pay for it. They're going to pay for it. You're just finding that figure. And is it 6? Is it 7? Is it 8? Is it 9, 10? That's on the Big 12 to get that done and make sure they procure value moving forward. And I think that conversation's definitely already happened. I mean, a lot of the stuff has already been, taken place. All right, guys, final questions. Simon says, why chase the week? I can't see presidents buying into all of Yormark's wild ideas. Well, Simon, I'll tell you this. Brett Yormark's job is not to buy into or not to make them believe all of them. Brett Yormark's job is to present ideas for all of these presidents, and those guys can make decisions based on what is best for their school and the conference. But now part of what is best for your school is also what's best for the conference, right? If you are a commission, or if you're a president rather, in the Big 12, Pac-12, or any other league, it's not the Big 10, and it's not the SEC, you very much now more than ever have to weigh what is best for your school. But weighing what's best for the conference is much more on your mind than it has been in the past. There is no doubt about that. No bones can be made about that. It is much more significant now to worry about the conference as a whole. I can see Amazon putting up $10 million for Friday night Big 12. Yes, but I think, I guess so. If Fox said no, they could go and get another television partner. Sure. But also that TV partner would not get picks in the games. They'd have to get the next pick on the games. So the way it's been explained to me is those schools could come in, but they could still be picked by Fox. So I'm not sure they get the A pick for that. At least that's my understanding of how that works. Y'all can correct me if I'm wrong. All right. Final questions, anybody? Once again, guys, thank you all for pushing this thing to 4K subscribers. If you all have not subscribed yet, please do. Our next goal will be setting it very soon, on the road to 5,000 subs. Help us do that today. Follow us on Twitter at LOBig12. You guys can find me at Josh Neighbors _. I enjoy hanging out with you guys. We'll keep on doing this as the spring and summer roll by. Once again, at LOBig12 on Twitter. You guys can find me at Josh Neighbors _ wherever you get your podcast, on YouTube as well. Till next time, my friends, as always, stay safe.